The first time Amara realized she might die wasn't when the gunshots rang out, it was when the man bleeding in her arms opened his eyes and looked at her like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. Don't let me go," he whispered, his voice rough, almost lost under the chaos. She had no idea who he was, but she didn't let go. Amara Johnson had always believed in simple kindness. Growing up in London, raised by a nurse who treated strangers like family, she learned early that humanity didn't need permission. It just needed action. That belief followed her all the way to Seoul. She wasn't there for adventure. She wasn't chasing dreams of romance or danger. She was there for work, temporary, quiet, safe. A cultural exchange program. Teaching English, living small, saving money, planning her future. That was the plan. Plans don't survive nights like this. It started with rain, cold, heavy, relentless. Amara had stayed late grading papers, and by the time she stepped out, the streets were nearly empty. Neon lights flickered across wet pavement, reflecting a city that felt both alive and distant. Then came the noise, a crash, a shout, footsteps running. She froze. Instinct told her to walk away. Mind your business, stay safe. But then she saw him, collapsed against a black car, suit soaked not just with rain, but blood. 3 men in the distance, searching. "Oh, find him," one yelled. Her heart slammed against her ribs. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something else, something dangerous. She should have left. Anyone would have. But he moved, just barely. A weak, desperate breath. Alive, that was enough. Amara ran to him, dropping to her knees. "Hey, stay with me," she whispered, her hands trembling as she pressed against the wound. His eyes opened, dark, sharp, even in pain. Not fear, not confusion. Control, even like this. He wasn't ordinary. He muttered. The footsteps were getting closer. Amara looked around. No time, no help, no options. Then she remembered something from her mother's training. If someone's losing too much blood, you keep them conscious. You keep their body fighting. Her eyes dropped to his pale lips, then back to his face. "Ha! This is going to sound crazy," she whispered. Before she could think twice, she leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't soft. It wasn't romantic. It was desperate. Warmth against cold, life against fading breath. For a second, nothing happened. Then his hand gripped her wrist, tight, alive. The men turned the corner. Amara reacted instantly. She pulled his head into her shoulder, shielding his face, whispering loudly, "Babe, you drank too much again." One of the men glanced over. Annoyed. Dismissive. Not suspicious. Just a drunk couple, he muttered. They moved on. Amara didn't breathe until they disappeared. Then she looked down at the man in her arms. He was still watching her. Not weak, not fading anymore. Watching. "Who are you?" she asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he said something that made her stomach drop. "They won't stop. They won't stop." She didn't take him to a hospital. Somehow she knew that wasn't safe. Instead, she took him to her tiny apartment, half dragging, half carrying a man who felt heavier than his body should allow. It took hours. Cleaning wounds, stopping bleeding, stitching what she could. Her hands shook the entire time, but she didn't stop. Morning came slowly, golden light slipping through thin curtains. Amara hadn't slept. She sat beside him watching, waiting, wondering what she had just pulled into her life. Then, weird technique was inefficient. She jumped. He was awake. Sitting up, as if he hadn't nearly died hours ago. "You should have applied pressure higher," he continued calmly. But effective enough." Amara stared. "Were unbelievable." His gaze met hers, sharp, unreadable. "Why did you help me?" There it was, the question she couldn't answer. "I don't know," she said honestly. "You needed help." Silence filled the room, heavy. Then, that kind of thinking gets people killed. She should have asked him to leave. She should have walked away. But something in his presence, something quiet and broken beneath the control, made her stay. For one day, then another. He didn't tell her his name. But she learned things anyway. The way he moved, precise, controlled. The scars old, deep, countless. The silence never empty, always calculating. And the way he watched her, not like prey, not like threat, like something unfamiliar. On the third night, everything changed. The door slammed open. Men flooded the apartment. Not the same ones. Worse, professional, armed. Amara froze. He didn't. In seconds, the quiet man she had cared for became something else entirely. Fast, deadly, unforgiving. He moved like a storm. And when it was over, the room was silent again, except for her heartbeat. He turned to her. For the first time, there was something in his eyes. Not control, not power. Something human. You should be afraid of me. Amara swallowed. He probably should be. He stepped closer. Then why aren't you running? Her answer came without hesitation. Not because you didn't let go either. That was the moment everything shifted, not when she saved him, not when he fought for her, but when they both realized neither of them had walked away. Days later, she finally learned his name, Jihoon, a name whispered in fear across circles she never knew existed. A man who ruled shadows, a man who trusted no one, a man who should have disappeared from her life the moment he stood again, but he didn't. Because the truth was simple, he had survived countless enemies, countless betrayals, countless nights alone, but no one had ever chosen him for no reason at all. And now, he wasn't letting that go. Jihoon didn't leave. That alone should have terrified Amara more than the men who had broken into her apartment, but fear wasn't what sat in her chest. It was something heavier, something quieter, something dangerously close to attachment. The morning after the attack, the city moved on like nothing had happened. Cars filled the streets, cafes opened, people laughed, but inside Amara's apartment the air felt different, still, watchful. Jihoon stood near the window, dressed now in clean clothes she had bought for him, simple, dark, unremarkable. Yet somehow, on him, even ordinary fabric looked like power wrapped in silence. You shouldn't go to work today, he said without turning. Amara frowned, tying her hair back. I can't just disappear. I have responsibilities. His voice remained calm. So do I, she paused. Yeah? And what exactly are those? A beat of silence. Then, staying alive. She didn't respond, because for the first time she believed him. The walk to school felt different that day. Every shadow felt longer. Every stranger felt closer. Amara hated it. She had built a life here. Simple, independent, hers. Now it felt like something invisible had wrapped around it, tightening slowly. Somehow, Jihoon was at the center of it. When she returned that evening, he was gone. No note. No message, nothing. Just an empty room and a silence that hit harder than she expected. Of course, she muttered, dropping her bag. That makes sense. People like him don't stay. She told herself she didn't care. She almost believed it until she noticed the blood. Fresh, not his. On the floor near the door, her breath caught. Jihoon. The name slipped out before she could stop it. A sound behind her. The door clicked shut. She turned, and there he was. But not the same. Not calm. Not controlled. His shirt was torn, his knuckles bruised, his eyes darker than before. You came back, she said quietly. He looked at her like that statement meant more than it should. I told you, he replied. I don't leave things unfinished. Something about that answer unsettled her. Am I a thing to you? She asked, half joking, half serious. He stepped closer, too close. You're the reason I'm still breathing. Her heart skipped. Oh, that doesn't answer my question. A pause. Then, a no. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was charged. That night, she cleaned his wounds again. Closer this time, more aware of him, of the heat of his skin, of the tension in his muscles, of the way his eyes never left her face. You keep getting hurt, she said softly. You keep fixing it, he replied. That's not sustainable. Neither is trusting people. Her hands stilled. Then why are you here? He didn't answer immediately. For once, Jihoon hesitated. I've spent my whole life knowing exactly what people want from me, he said finally. Power, money, protection. His gaze locked onto hers. We're the first person who wanted nothing. Amara felt something shift inside her chest. That's not true, she whispered. His brow furrowed slightly. I wanted you to live. That hit harder than anything else. Because it was simple, honest, dangerous. A knock on the door shattered the moment. 3 sharp taps. Both of them froze. Jihoon moved instantly, pulling her behind him. Silent, alert. Don't open it, he murmured. I murmured. But the knocking came again. Louder, more urgent. Amara, are you home? Her eyes widened. It's Mrs. Han, she whispered. My neighbor. Jihoon didn't relax. Send her away. I can't just. She'll get suspicious. His jaw tightened. She's already in danger just standing there. That was the moment it truly sank in. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't something she could step away from. Anyone near her could get hurt. Amara took a breath, then stepped forward. Mrs. Han, I'm not feeling well today. I'll talk to you tomorrow. A pause. Then, oh, okay, dear, rest well. Footsteps faded. Only then did Jihoon lower his guard, but his expression had changed. You see now, he said quietly. This is what follows me. Amara looked at him, really looked at him. Not the fighter, Not the dangerous man, but the weight he carried. You didn't choose this, did you? She asked. Something flickered in his eyes, brief, almost invisible. No, another silence. Different this time, softer. You can leave, he said suddenly. I'll go back to London. Forget this ever happened. Amara blinked. What? I'll make sure you're safe. Money, protection, whatever you need. Fruition. She stared at him. And you? That's not your concern. Something in her snapped. Stop deciding things for me, she said, her voice sharper than before. His expression hardened. You don't understand the world you're stepping into. Then explain it to me. I can't, or you won't. The tension between them rose fast, too fast. You saved my life, he said, his voice low now. That doesn't mean you get to be part of it. Amara stepped closer. And you don't get to push me out just because it's easier for you. They stood there, close, breathing the same air. Neither backing down, then, unexpectedly, Jihoon laughed. Soft, short, but real. You're reckless, he said. Amara crossed her arms. And you're impossible. Another pause. Then he said something that changed everything again. They're not just coming for me anymore. Her stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means he stepped closer, his voice almost a whisper now. They know about you. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, everything sharper. Amara's heart pounded. Then we figure it out, she said. Jihoon studied her, long, carefully, as if measuring something he wasn't used to trusting. You don't run, he said quietly. She shook her head. No. Another silence. But this one felt like a decision, a line crossed, a path chosen. Jihoon reached for her hand, not forcefully, not possessively, carefully, like it mattered. And when their fingers touched, neither of them pulled away. The moment their hands touched, something unspoken passed between them. Not romance. Not yet. Something deeper. A quiet agreement that whatever came next, they were already in it together. Jihoon let go first. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to. We don't have much time, he said, his voice shifting back into that calm, controlled edge Amara was starting to recognize. Time for what? She asked. To disappear. Amara blinked. And that's not a plan. That's running. That's running. It's survival. And after that, we just keep running forever. Jihoon didn't answer. That silence told her everything. Within an hour, her life was packed into one small bag. It felt wrong. Not just the leaving, but how fast everything she built could be reduced to something so small. Her apartment, her job, her routine, gone. All because she chose to help a stranger in the rain. You can still stay, Jihoon said quietly from the doorway, watching her. She zipped the bag shut. And wait for them to come back? She replied. No thanks. A small pause. Then she added, I'm not leaving because I'm scared. I'm not leaving because I'm scared. I'm leaving because I'm not stupid. For a second, he almost smiled. The car ride was silent. Dark windows, empty streets. A route that changed too often to follow. Amara sat in the passenger seat, watching the city fade into something unfamiliar. Where are we going? She finally asked. It's somewhere they won't look first. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. After nearly 2 hours, they reached it. A house. Isolated, modern, hidden behind trees and distance. It didn't look like a safe house. It looked like a life someone forgot to live. Inside, everything was spotless. Lean was spotless. Oh, cold, untouched. Amara stepped in slowly. You live here. No. Then who does? Jihoon set the keys down. No one anymore. That answer sat heavy in the air, but she didn't push. Not yet. Days passed differently there. Slower, quieter, but never peaceful. Jihoon trained every morning, relentless. Precise, like stopping would cost him something. Amara watched once, just once, before realizing this wasn't discipline. It was survival carved into muscle. You don't rest, do you? She said one morning, leaning against the doorframe. He didn't stop moving. Rest makes you slow, or human. He glanced at her. I don't have the luxury. That stayed with her. At night, things changed. The silence got louder. The distance between them. Smaller. Not physically. Something else. You never told me who they are, Amara said one evening, sitting across from him. Jihoon didn't look up from the glass in his hand. They're not just enemies, he said. Then what? A pause. Then a family. That hit harder than she expected. What? My organization, he continued calmly. You'd call it a mafia. I call it structure. And they're trying to kill you? They're trying to replace me. Amara leaned back, processing. So this isn't just survival, she said slowly. This is a power fight. It's always a power fight, and you're the boss. He finally looked at her. Not proud, not defensive, just certain. Yes, everything clicked into place. The control, the danger, the way people moved around him, even when he was bleeding out. And now they know about me, she said quietly. Yes, and that makes me, what? Leverage. Jihoon's jaw tightened slightly. You know? Then what? He stood, walked toward her, slow, measured. Someone I won't let them touch. The way he said it wasn't a threat, it was a promise. Her heart reacted before her mind could. That's not your decision alone, she said, softer this time. They already made it mine, another silence. But it wasn't tense. It was something else, something building. That night the storm came back. Rain against glass, wind against walls, echoes of the night they met. Amara couldn't sleep. She stepped into the living room and found him already there. Of course, you ever stop thinking? She asked, sitting beside him. No, that sounds exhausting. It is. She hesitated. Then, are you afraid? That question hung between them, heavy, unexpected. Jihoon didn't answer right away, but this time he didn't ignore it. Yes, Amara turned to him, surprised. Of dying? He shook his head. A no, a pause, then of losing control. She studied him, the man who could fight off armed attackers, the man who never hesitated. Afraid. That night, he continued quietly, when you kissed me, her breath caught. I wasn't thinking about survival. He looked at her. Direct. Unfiltered. I was thinking about you. Everything stilled. The storm, the room, her heartbeat. That doesn't make sense, she whispered. It doesn't have to. They were close now. Too close. But neither moved away. You don't even know me, she said. I know enough. That's not how this works. It is for me. His hand lifted, hesitating for the first time since she met him. Then gently, he touched her cheek. Not possessive, not forceful, careful, like she was something fragile in a world where nothing else was. Amara didn't pull back, but she didn't lean in either. Jihoon, she said softly, this isn't just danger anymore. I know. Yeah, this is something else. A breath passed between them, shared, uneven, real. Then headlights flashed through the window. Both of them turned instantly. Jihoon's expression changed, sharp, focused. Gone was the hesitation. Gone was the softness. They found us. The words hit like a gunshot. Amara stood quickly. What do we do? Jihoon grabbed his jacket, his weapon, his calm. We don't run this time. Her heart pounded. That didn't sound like a suggestion. It's not. Outside, engines roared, doors slammed, voices approached. Amara looked at him. Really looked. You said they were your family, she said. They are. Then try not to kill all of them. For the first time, Jihoon smiled without holding it back. No promise. The first gunshot shattered the glass before Amara could take another breath. Everything moved at once. Jihoon grabbed her, pulling her down just as another bullet tore through the wall behind them. Stay low, he ordered, his voice sharp, absolute. But Amara's heart wasn't just racing from fear anymore. It was something else. This time, she wasn't frozen. A back exit? She asked quickly. Jihoon glanced at her, just for a second, but it was enough to see it. He wasn't surprised anymore. He was starting to expect her to stand beside him. Oh no, he said. They covered it. A front, eye too exposed. Another gunshot. Closer. Amara's mind raced. The small house, the layout, the windows, the angles. You said this place belonged to someone, she said quickly, and there has to be something. Panic room, hidden access, something. Jihoon hesitated, then nodded once. There is. They moved fast. Down a narrow hallway past a door he hadn't opened since they arrived. Jihoon pushed it open, revealing a stairway leading down into darkness. Stay behind me, he said. Amara didn't argue, but she didn't fall too far behind either. The basement was different, not like the clean emptiness upstairs. This place had history, files, screens, locked cabinets, a life that ended but never left. What is this? She whispered. Jihoon didn't answer right away, because the truth was already in his eyes. This was my brother's safe house. Amara froze. You said no one lived here anymore. He doesn't. The meaning landed hard. Before she could respond, footsteps thundered above them. Doors breaking, voices shouting. They're inside. Jihoon moved to a metal panel on the wall, pressing a sequence. A section slid open, revealing weapons. Hidden. Prepared. Amara stared. This is war. Jihoon handed her a small handgun. Cold, heavy, real. I don't know how to use this, she said, her voice steady but quieter now. You won't need to. And if I do? He looked at her. Long, careful. Then you aim and don't hesitate. That wasn't comforting. but it was honest. The power cut. Everything went dark. For a split second, silence. Then boots on the stairs, Ji-hoon stepped in front of her. A wall, a shield, something unbreakable. The first man appeared and fell just as fast, silent, precise, controlled. Amara watched, not in shock anymore, but in understanding. This was who he was. Not just danger, not just power. Survival. More came. Faster, louder. Gunfire filled the space. Walls splintered. Air burned. A stay down. June snapped, but Amara didn't just hide. She moved. Instinct, timing, trust. One of the men slipped past Ji-hoon, just enough. Just a second. Too close. Amara didn't think. She reacted. She grabbed the gun, turned, closed her eyes, then opened them again, and aimed. The shot rang out. Everything stopped. The man dropped. Silence followed. Heavy. Unavoidable. Amara stood frozen, the gun still in her hand, her breath uneven. She whispered. Ji-hoon stepped toward her slow. Careful. Oh, you're okay, he said, but she shook her head. No, I didn't think. That's why you're still alive. Her hands trembled, not from fear, from realization. She swallowed, her voice breaking slightly. I didn't want him to get to you. That did something to him. That did something to him. Something deeper than anything before. Ji-hoon reached out, not for the gun, but for her hand. You didn't hesitate, he said quietly. Amara looked at him. I told you, I'm not leaving. Footsteps again. Different this time, slower, confident. Ji-hoon's expression changed instantly, not tension, not urgency, recognition. A man stepped into the doorway, alone, well-dressed, calm. You've always been hard to kill, the man said lightly. Amara felt the shift in the air. This wasn't just another attacker. A Minyi, Ji-hoon said coldly. The man smiled. Young brother. Amara's chest tightened. You brought outsiders into this, Minyi continued, his eyes flicking briefly to her. That's unlike you. Ji-hoon stepped forward. A leave? Minyi chuckled. You think this ends with you hiding in old memories? A pause. Then his gaze sharpened. You were supposed to die that night. Everything froze. Amara whispered. Ji-hoon didn't look at her, didn't move, didn't react, but something in him shifted. Minyi took another step. You really thought it was random? He said softly. The ambush, the timing, the betrayal. The truth hit the room like a storm. You set it up, Ji-hoon said quietly. Minyi smiled. I finished what our father started. Amara felt her heart drop. This wasn't just power. This was blood. Ji-hoon's voice was calm. Too calm. You tried to kill me. No, Minyi corrected. I tried to replace you. Silence. Heavy. Final. Then Minyi's gaze shifted back to Amara, and her, he added, almost curious. She wasn't part of the plan. Ji-hoon stepped in front of her instantly. She still isn't. Minyi tilted his head slightly, studying, calculating. That's where you're wrong, he said softly. His hand lifted. A signal. Behind him, more footsteps, more men. You made her part of it the moment you chose her. Amara's grip tightened, her heartbeat steadying again, because now she understood. Fully, clearly. This wasn't something she got dragged into. This was something she stepped into and stayed. Ji-hoon didn't look back at her, but his voice reached her anyway. Whatever happens next, don't trust him. Amara's eyes stayed locked on Minyi. I already don't. The basement felt too small for what was about to happen. Too tight, too quiet, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Minyi smiled like he had already won. Though, not because of the men behind him, not because of the weapons, but because of something deeper, certainty. You always were predictable, Hyung, Minyi said, stepping forward slowly. You protect, you hesitate, you carry things that make you weak. Ji-hoon didn't move, didn't speak, but Amara felt it, the shift in him, not anger, not fear, something colder. I learned from you, Ji-hoon said quietly. Minyi's smile flickered. It did you? A single second. That's all it took. The lights cut completely. Darkness swallowed everything. Gunfire exploded. Amara dropped instantly, her senses sharp now, not overwhelmed, focused. She didn't freeze this time. She moved. She remembered the layout, the distance, the breathing. Another shot, a shout, a body hitting the ground. Silence answered him. Then another sound. Closer. Amara held her breath. Her fingers tightened around the gun. A shadow moved, not toward her, past her. Fast, precise. Then a thud. A struggle, and suddenly the lights flickered back on. Ji-hoon stood behind Minyi. Gun pressed to his brother's head. Everything stopped. The men behind Minye froze, uncertain, waiting. Minye laughed softly. Even now, even like this. You won't do it, he said calmly. Ji-hoon's grip didn't change. You think this is about power? Minye continued. This is about control. And you lost that the moment you let her in. Amara stepped forward, slowly. Enough, she said. Both men looked at her. Her heart pounded, but her voice didn't shake. You're wrong, she continued, her eyes locked on Minye. He didn't lose control. A pause. Then he chose something different. Minye studied her, curious, almost amused. And you think that makes him stronger? Amara didn't hesitate. Yes. Silence stretched, heavy. Then something unexpected happened. Ji-hoon lowered the gun. Just slightly, just enough. Minye's eyes widened, not in fear, but in realization. You changed, he whispered. Ji-hoon's voice was steady. No, a beat. Then I remembered. Before Minye could react, Ji-hoon struck. Fast, precise, non-lethal. Minye collapsed, unconscious. The room held still for one long second. Then Ji-hoon looked up. I'll drop your weapons, he said coldly to the remaining men. This time, they listened, because something had shifted. Not just in power, but in presence. The fight was over. Hours later, the silence returned, but it wasn't the same. Police would come. The organization would fracture. Power would shift again, but none of that felt immediate. Not here, not now. Amara stood outside the house, the early morning light brushing across her face. The storm had passed. Ji-hoon stepped beside her. No guards, no distance, just him. It's over, she said softly. He looked at her. For a long moment. A no, he replied. Her brows furrowed slightly. This part is, he added. A quiet breeze moved between them. You could still leave, he said. I'll go back. Have your life again. Amara let out a small breath. You keep saying that, she murmured, because you deserve it. She turned to him fully now. And what about you? A pause. I don't know what that looks like yet. That was the most honest answer he had ever given her. Amara smiled faintly. Then maybe you figure it out. You figure it out. With you? He asked. She held his gaze. Not afraid, not uncertain. Only if you stop deciding things for me. For the first time, there was no weight in his expression. No calculation. No distance. Just something real. A deal, he said quietly. A moment passed. Then another. Neither of them moved. Until Ji-hoon reached for her hand again. This time, she didn't hesitate. Their fingers intertwined naturally, like something that had already chosen itself long before either of them understood it. The city waited for them, a future neither of them had planned, a world still dangerous, still uncertain. But for once, Ji-hoon didn't look at it like something to control. He looked at it like something he might actually live in. And Amara, the woman who stepped into chaos with nothing but instinct and heart, stood beside him. Not pulled in, not trapped. Chosen? And this time, neither of them let go.